Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
Russ, I am still stoked up from last week's Podcast Movement 2018.
Well, Philadelphia did not disappoint, and I know you guys are like, please get to the episode already, but I want you to do this. I want you, if you're driving, don't do this. But if you're at home or if you're working out, stop, go to Facebook. I want you to go to Wealth Without Wall Street and see the stallion running the Museum of Art stairs like Rocky.
Man, it was a bucket list item for sure, but I was a little slower going up the steps because of the cheesesteak tour that Gene Twilley took us on.
We did go to 5 cheesecake. Yeah, I keep saying cheesesteak. It's cheesesteak, bro. And in fact, I've had more bread in that one evening than I had in like 2 months total. But the food coma, the bread coma, watching you labor up those stairs like Rocky, like, you know, the later years. I mean, it was beautiful, but you've got to go see this. If you're not driving right now, I want you to go to Facebook. You've got to see these pics.
But okay, why were we there? What's the whole point of today's episode? It's peer groups.
Well, it's learning, right? It's not being a solopreneur without a plan.
That's right. And so we're sitting there with the top of the podcast community, the John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneurs on Fire.
Yeah, or Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income.
I mean, these guys are sharing their trade with us at that level. We're in private dinners with them, all these sort of things. This is important. If you're an entrepreneur, what are you leaving on the table when you're not a part of these groups?
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there. I've said to myself, hey, look, there's some issues that I don't really know how to solve, but where do I go look for these answers? And it always comes back to being around people in the similar situation. And I don't know if it's just like, hey, this is helpful, like I'm not the only one struggling with this, but I know that there's answers out there of people who are in like situations. And that's exactly why we went to Philadelphia. That's why we're going to Indy here in a couple of weeks. We got to be around, have accountability, and be around others in a community that can give us insight to things that can help us.
How many times, Russ, have you and I been flying back from wherever it is that we're going, what mastermind or what conference or seminar, whatever it might be, and we say, what if we had missed this one takeaway?
Oh my goodness. And it doesn't matter. This could be like an investment conference. For some of you guys, you're just a real estate investor and that's what you're really into. You've got to get in connected with groups, whether it's in private Facebook groups, whether it's in communities like this, a mastermind group. You take away nuggets. And one of the things that we took away from this after talking to all of these entrepreneurs, and there was thousands of them, crazy things. I mean, the podcasts we learned about, so funny, some of them. But one of the things I would take away is that the common question we were asking is, what is your plan to build wealth? Because they're like, wait a second, what's this wealth without Wall Street? And we started asking, what's your plan? And what was their answer?
Nothing.
What?
Make more money. That's all they could point to.
There's no plan. Come on, entrepreneurs. We are great at making money, but we've got to get better at keeping it.
Right. So we are putting a line in the sand, Russ. We're going to make the course for entrepreneurs to keep more of the money that they're making, to stop the taxes leaking out the back door, create tax strategies that will lower that tax burden, and have a budgetary type system so that you keep more of the money and you create passive businesses.
Well, we want freedom. That's who we are as entrepreneurs. But I can tell you, without a plan, we are at jeopardy of that freedom being stolen from us, literally taken away because we are putting ourselves at jeopardy. But today's episode, keep pointing back because I know we're fired up about this course. It's coming. But today is going to help you learn why it's important to be around others in a like-minded, peer group, and we've got a special guest who has really been doing this for like the last 30 years.
Right. We could not ask anybody with more experience than Victoria Downing with the Remodeler's Advantage. She has built these groups with hundreds of remodelers across the country for years and years and years, and she's going to share with you some of the insights of what are the biggest things she sees that entrepreneurs are missing. What's the biggest things on their financial books? You need to hear this, and I can't wait for you to hear what she has to say. Let's listen in. Victoria, welcome into the show. We're so glad to have you today.
Thank you for having me. It's fun to be here.
Awesome. Well, as you know, we wanted to have you on the show because you guys are right in line with our vision of helping people to invest in themselves. And you guys have a ridiculously just interesting program with Remodeler's Advantage. I want to just jump right in. I want to just, ask the first question. Why do people get involved in these peer groups that you guys put on with Remodeler's Advantage? What are they really looking for?
Well, there are a lot of different reasons why people come to us, but there's a couple that sort of rise to the top. As a business owner, you're sort of on an island. If you don't have a partner, it's difficult to have someone within your business that you can really share the trials and tribulations. A lot of times you're not going to feel comfortable going into the issues that are really keeping you awake at night with your employees because they'll freak out, right? So you're stuck with no one to really talk to. If you have a spouse or a partner, you can talk to them, but there's a level of lack of understanding that goes on there because they're not involved in the day-to-day stuff. So people come into this peer group because they're looking for other people who understand the challenges that they're going through and can help them work their way through to the other side to a successful conclusion. So that's a big one. They don't want to be alone. They don't want to be an island.
Well, Victoria, as we speak to business owners every single day on this podcast, they resonate with what you just said. They sometimes feel like they're on an island. They may be the head of a major corporation, but a lot of times they feel like they don't have anybody else to share.
Right.
Tell me about some of the discussions that you've kind of been able to listen in on that's happening in those peer groups where they're really able to learn from each other.
Well, think about it. Wouldn't it be awesome to be sitting in a room with people just like you that have been through all the same stuff, the same challenges? You get into all different aspects of the business. Now, a lot of these folks in my world, in the remodeling world, are very good technicians. They're craftsmen. They came up, they're artists. They can build anything. But few of them have had the kind of education they need to really understand how to run a business successfully. So when they come into a peer group, they can talk about everything. They're not talking about how to build an addition. They're talking about how to manage people, how to hire, how to build a marketing plan, how to bring in the kinds of customers they want, how to keep those customers happy, how to make money when they're not working 80 hours a week, how to make money and still be able to take a vacation. There's all that stuff. And they're passionate about their business. They just need some guidance to help them build a business that works for them and their lives.
Well, and you make a good point. Like, these aren't unsuccessful people, right?
No.
They come and they may even be somewhat blind to what they need to do, but they know inherently in the back of their mind, there's something keeping them from that next level.
Mm-hmm.
And so they plug into your system, into these peer groups. Talk a little bit more about like what other things that they're going to get when they're working with Remodeler's Advantage.
Well, like you said, I always tell people that join us, and we've got a lot of people that have joined us, and our typical membership stays for around 7 years, but we've got people who've been with us for over 20 years. So when they come into us, they're looking for that sounding board. But they really, another thing, and I tell them all the time when they join, you're already successful. You're already in the top 10% of this industry. There's no doubt about that. But what we're able to do is to help you fast track your progress. If we can help you by making some changes, getting in line with industry standards, by understanding what other companies are achieving, if we can help you fast track your progress, great stuff, right? So one of the things that they get to do is they get to see the statistics from all of these other companies. So you're not going into a room and just talking, letting your ego talk about, hey, I sold this much or we produced this much. Who cares how much you made? I mean, how much your revenue was if you don't make money, if you don't make profits. So by being in here, you're actually comparing numbers. So you can see how you compare, where you're weak, where you're strong. Everybody comes in with a strength or two, right? Everybody's got an area they're really strong in, but pretty much everybody's got an area in which they're weak as well. So they can pick up on the weak spots and learn how other people are overperforming and take those tips and those techniques and that information to transform their own company. Does that make sense?
Sure. How do you avoid what you just talked about happening? Because sometimes I've seen that in mastermind groups that Joey and I've been in, where sometimes it becomes this egocentric a way for me to come in and show you how great I've been doing versus a way for me to come in and listen and learn, but still share our successes in a way that will help you. What are some techniques or what are some ways that are helping the people that are getting involved in peer groups? Because not everybody is a remodeler that's listening, right? And
right, but there's probably a peer group for that industry.
Exactly.
Right.
So, but there's always, there's the goods and the bads. How do you help avoid that? Because obviously you guys have done a great job. You've created a culture somehow, and I'm sure that didn't happen by accident.
Well, we have been doing this since 1990, so we've had a lot of practice. And there's a couple of things. First of all, the numbers don't lie. So if you're going to join a peer group that collects metrics and compares them against others. If you're not sharing the numbers, it's pointless because all you've got is ego. Yeah, you can share some ideas, but the numbers don't lie. It'll tell you where you need to put your focus. So that's one of the things. And the second thing is, again, we've been doing this a long time. And I'm not sure that this had that much to do with it, but we're a woman-founded, woman-run for many years organization. We're warm, fuzzy. We tell people up front. We tell them that we expect if one of our other members from a different market calls them up at any time and says, will you help me? Will you spend a half an hour with me helping me with this? We expect that member to say yes and vice versa. Our members know that they can stop in at any other roundtable member if they're driving through that town or on vacation in a town and visit them, and they are going to be welcomed and vice versa. We make it very clear. And if people don't fit that culture, if they do have those egos, they don't stay with us because that's not what we're about. We're about, what's that saying? The rising tide rises all ships. So that's what we're about. In for everybody, the good of everybody.
Well, that sounds awesome, Victoria. And the more I'm hearing, obviously we've talked about this a number of times offline. It sounds like a fantastic program. We know several of our clients are involved, but what would be the main reason that you hear people don't take the step of joining Remodelers Advantage, or they've hesitated or put it off? Like, what are the main things that you see are standing in their way?
I think it has to do with a lot of different forms of personal improvement. Sometimes people don't think they have the time, but we know, because we work with small business owners of all over the place, right? We know that investment in themselves and taking the time to remove yourself from the chaos, the whirlwind of everyday work and focus on your business and create plans and action steps to improve the company's performance pays off big time. So I got to tell you, in all the years I've been doing this, I have never, ever, ever heard anyone say to me, I wish I would have waited to join roundtables. But I have heard hundreds of people say to me, I wish I would have done this 5 years ago, because they would be so much farther along. You know what the cool thing is now a lot of our original members are bringing their kids into the roundtables because the kids are now involved in the business. They're emerging leaders. They're coming in. And now these owners know that getting these kids in their 20s and 30s is going to catapult them to a whole nother level of success. So time is one of those things. And the other thing is money. And again, I tell anybody coming in right off the bat, we can give them a 10 times return on their money almost without trying, because almost always there are simple things that these business owners can do to fix a problem or to take more advantage of an opportunity that's going to give them huge results. Now, granted, when you first start, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. You got all this information, all these changes. We help focus in on the most important, the most basic foundational improvements first, and then we work out from there. And yes, gradually the WAMPO returns sort of get down to a little bit of more of a dull roar, but that's when you start to tweak and to make those 1% and 2% and 3% improvements that can really make a significant difference in the position of your company for the long term.
So you mentioned something in that kind of stuck out to me. And when we were talking before the podcast, you said that a lot of times when you're meeting with these business owners, they come in and they maybe have been great technicians, very skilled in their trade, but their books leave something to be said, right?
Yes.
Some of which you may even have to just throw away and start from scratch. And in that, because you said, look, I feel like we can give people a 10 times return, like without even working toward it. What's one of those things that just you see very commonly that is not being done in business owners that you're dealing with?
Well, the most common issue when people come to us is that they are not embracing their financial statements as the management tools that they can be.
Oh, wow.
Now, I love the numbers. I love budgeting. I love reaching those goals. I love knowing what I have to sell and how I have to sell it and at what margin I have to sell it, because I want to make not just a salary for myself, but I want to make a net profit over and above all the expenses and over and above my salary. Now, it's not just for me. I'm very open book here. And I believe, and I share all the numbers with my staff, and they are bonused on the profit. So I believe strongly in the numbers. I believe strongly in my heart that the numbers tell the company's story. And if the numbers are clear and accurate and simple, they will almost tell the business owner what moves to take next for better performance. But what happens is when people come to us, those numbers aren't clear and simple and accurate. They're a mess, frankly. And if I can't read the story, I can't help. None of their peers can help because we don't know what's going on because we can't read the story. So the foundational element is making sure that those numbers are clear, accurate, simple, and fit in a format that everybody can understand quickly so we can dive in and help.
Yes. Victoria, several months ago, we did a podcast on the cash flow game. You familiar with that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I can't remember the author.
Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah.
Yes,
Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes, I've got it on my shelf right here, as a matter of fact.
It's such a great game because it makes somebody work through an income statement, a balance sheet, and just what you said, it will tell the story very simply. Mm-hmm. I love that. And I know that sometimes as business owners, we want to just get out and do our art.
Right.
But the real management tool that you said is the financial numbers. And I talk with our clients all the time that I am a terrible drawer, even though I will try on my whiteboard constantly to draw things. But I love to draw with numbers.
Yeah.
Because I like to tell a story with what numbers look like. And there's J.D. Rockefeller once said, it's not how much money you make, but it's how much money you keep.
Yes.
And if you don't understand those numbers, you're probably not keeping much of it.
That's exactly right. There was a consultant years ago in our industry, and he used to say, volume kills, profit thrills. So many people come in, they go like, I want to be a $5 million company. Yeah, let's go. But you have to prove you understand how to make money at a $1 million company or $2 million company before you make that leap, because it just magnifies the issues.
I love that you said that they need to embrace their financial statements. That. I'm sure a lot of business owners just were listening to that thinking, I don't know that I would embrace the numbers. I need to work on that a little bit.
But you know what? Once you do, and once you start watching that profit, it's just hugely exciting. I mean, when you think about it, right? Small business, the scoreboard is the profits of the company. If you're not making profits, you're not winning as a business owner, and maybe you should think about going and getting a job and working for somebody else. If you're going to be a business owner and you want to compete as a business owner and win, This is the scoreboard, the net profit that is remaining, and then what you do with it, and so on. So what happens a lot is, if oftentimes when people come in and we get their foundational elements, their financial statements straightened out, we start to work on a budget to try to determine how to price their project so that they do make money, pay themselves well. Our whole thing is earn more, work less, period, right? So we're trying to help them build this business to do that. Almost 90% of the time, I'd say, we help them realize that they have not been charging enough money for their projects. Well, that's easy to say, but we all know that once we say, okay, you got to sell your projects for more money, you're not charging enough. Well, that sets off a cascade of other issues, right? Okay, great. I embrace that. I'll take it. I have to sell my projects for more money. That may mean that you need sales training. It may mean that you need more marketing investment. It may mean that you're going to need to go on more appointments because you're not going to be the low man on the totem pole anymore. You're not going to be selling on price anymore. So that sets off this cascade of other issues that are going to have to be dealt with. They can be dealt with. They are dealt with by many, many business owners. And that's where working within a peer group really helps, because you can see that other people did it. And once they make that jump, and they start to charge and sell jobs at the prices that will give them a profit, they'll never go back. There's no going back. And they just go, how the heck could I have been doing it, selling my stuff at that low price for the last 10 years?
Right. I mean, but here's the thing that we can't understate in what you just mentioned. Having the confidence now to know that they are worth that much, number one, because they have that third-party objective outside resource saying, you really should be charging this much. This is what the other people at your level are charging. And they may have gotten stuck in this kind of the brother-in-law way of thinking about pricing deals, right? Or, I don't have the confidence to go to that level yet. I'm not there yet. And then they realize, wait a minute, this is where I should be. So that's huge. Just the value of having that third party coming in and telling them that. I mean, there's no telling how big that could to take their business.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, Victoria, give us, there's an old book that talked about working or selling to zebras. I think that was the name of the book. And the reality is that whoever your consumer is and whatever industry you're in, you want to find out who is your best customer and what do they look like. And they're all going to have very similar stripes. That was selling to zebras, right? In your world, you're finding that you're bringing business owners together. They're sharing and they're being very successful. So there's some common stripes, some common traits of your most successful business owners as they're interacting within your roundtables. What are you seeing as those most common traits?
Well, again, a lot of them have grown into those common traits, right? They come in just like everybody else, needing to straighten out their financials and get a grip. But now when people have been with us for 9+ years, are the difference in their personal compensation and net profit is tremendous, because every year they're learning more and more and becoming more sophisticated. And the difference is pretty dramatic. So by the time they get to those higher levels, they have had a lot of success under their belt. They do have that confidence. And where they start to focus is more on the building of the team, the building of a organization that can run without them, the understanding of how to delegate. They start focusing on learning how to be strong leaders and strong managers of people, because that's what it all relies on. They're no longer doing the scheduling. They're no longer doing the estimating typically. They've moved on, and now they're building that team that is allowing them to be a business owner and focus on those things. So they get excited about it. They're passionate about it. So that, and again, they're willing to take the risks and do the things that they see other people doing.
Well, I get excited hearing more and more about what you guys offer to your clients and those that are involved in these peer groups, because of how passionate we are that business owners sometimes just need a license to know that their money shouldn't be parked at Wall Street, because they could be getting 10x returns through programs like yours and coaching is so vital to that happening. Even just the few things that you've mentioned today, and I'm sure that there's a multitude of stories we could share of other people and how this has affected them. But there's nothing that Wall Street could offer them that's going to give them a 10x return. Nothing.
Once they get to the point where they're really good business owners, they're good business leaders, they're making, multiples of the average in net profits and so on, and have all that extra cash, then if they want to invest in other things, great. But in themselves, you're right, is where they're going to get the biggest return in the short term before they go anywhere else.
And even I'll add this because I'm really stoked up about going to your conference in September. September, and to hear John Warlow. I know he's been on your podcast, and he's going to be there to talk about your business being a sellable business, and it's but it should be something like you said that runs without you and all these things. These are common things we're talking to, whether you're in the remodeler's business or whatever business you own. I love the fact that you guys are investing in your clients that way to teach them these things. And I'm excited about learning myself. There's some things that people are probably going to want to walk away from our podcast today and figure out, how can I plug in? Like, how can I learn more about what we talked about? And so we're going to put some things in the show notes. Russ, did you have something?
Well, you mentioned something there, Joey, about the John Warlow, right? The book, and then how to build something to sell. And I think that's one last takeaway we could have, because I'm really interested in your response to this question, Victoria, is what is the thing that you're pointing to as showing your clients how they actually can sell a business? Because really, it's interesting that, again, there's lots of different listeners to this that are not remodelers. And what I've always heard about remodeling is that it's really not a business to sell, because I'm the business. I am the individual. And it's so funny that falls into lots of worlds. In our world, what we do, people say, well, you really can't sell this business. It's you. If you walk out of it, I mean, your clients are not going to want to just instantaneously do business with another person just because you left. But that's not true either. So there's one thing that you guys are teaching your clients of how to actually build something that can sell. I'm interested to hear what you guys do on that.
Well, I really, over the years that I've been in this, I can probably count on less than 10 fingers how many remodelers have successfully sold their business, but that is changing significantly now. So at our summit that's coming up, the meeting you referred to, Joey, this September in New Orleans, the theme of that is legacy. And that legacy is for those business owners who do want to grow a business that they can sell, but it's also for those business owners who just want to maximize the value, the return on their investment of time and money while they have the business. But if specifically somebody was interested in selling, well, that's why we put a lot of these people together. How would you do it? Would you use an ESOP? Would you just sell it to an investor? How would you do it? And John Warlow, who wrote the book Built to Sell, he's got some strong messages. And part of that is removing yourself from as many of the day-to-day activities as you can. Now, in our world, we talk about two different kinds of remodeling companies. One is a practice. It's like a dental practice, a doctor's practice. If that remodeler were not there, the practice wouldn't exist. You can make a lot of money with that model. Nothing wrong with that model. It works, but you can't sell it. The other is a business where you start to build middle management. You build a leadership team. You have people that are managing, and you're delegating successfully and getting out of as much as you possibly can. Specifically, the hardest part, I think, is getting out of sales. That's about the last thing that these business owners step out of. Building a sales team is an important part of having a saleable company, or having one, if not two or three salespeople managing that process. That's a big part, which is why one of the people we have speaking at the summit is talking about how to start that sales team, how to build a strong sales team and get yourself out of that position. That sets you up in a much, much better place.
Well, and I think Robert Kiyosaki, we were speaking about him earlier in his Cash Flow Quadrant book. He speaks to the real differentiator between a self-employed individual and a business owner, because a lot of times we will refer to ourselves as business owners because, hey, we own a business, and it may be just me, my name on the side of a truck. or I have a business card and it says owner. So then that automatically labels me as a business owner. But his defining differential there is, can you walk away from the business for a year or longer and come back and it be at equal or greater than when you left it?
Yes.
Right. And that's what you're talking about, is that when you start creating these middle management, salespeople, other individuals who are doing the day-to-day functions, and then all you're doing is really then looking at those numbers, and it now is telling a story of, hey, looks like, we need to improve ourselves. So I'm going to go have conversations and manage my salespeople, or looks like, our bottom line is not as profitable as I'd want it to be.
Right.
Maybe it's because we've got too much expenses. I need to go visit with our operations person. That's where a business owner is doing. That's where an operator versus, as you said, a practicer is happening, right?
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that you mentioned to us that there's a tool that you use to help just on a very baseline level, get some of your business owners better understanding the numbers. And
I call that the budget development tool.
Yeah.
And it's a simplistic spreadsheet model, but I talked to a lot of remodelers over the phone. So I was answering the same questions, doing the same calculations over and over. So I developed this little spreadsheet that allows people to see the difference if they were to raise their gross profit margin, AKA their selling price, by just a couple of percentages, the difference that would make and how many jobs they had to do and what revenue they had to produce. People are blown away when they say, gosh, if I come in at 24%, if I can bump that up to 30% gross profit margin, oh my God, I have to produce so much less work. So and then from there it goes into different revenue streams. If you're charging different amounts for large commercial jobs versus custom homes versus remodeling versus handyman, yada, yada. So it's a cool little tool.
Well, I think that's really a neat thing. And I think there's probably some applicable use of that regardless in the business that you're in. So are you willing to share that with our audience?
Totally. Yep. I'll be happy to provide that.
Well, cool. Well, we'll put that in the show notes. And then also you guys do a very a weekly thing where you're giving tips of different sorts. What was that called? Power tips or something?
Yep. We have power tips. We do a podcast as well as a blog. Actually, we have two podcasts. One is underneath that umbrella. One is called The Tim Fowler Show, which focuses on the production processes of a remodeling company, where the money's actually made. And then Power Tips Unscripted is focusing more on the management of the business and those types of topics. So it's a blast. It's fun. We have great guests like you do.
Well, it's fun to be able to share these things. And I thank you for being so abundant in your thought process to be able to get out there and get on the air and share this with our audience so that they can learn. And I know that there's somebody listening to this right now. Joey and I got a message yesterday from one of our listeners talking about they listened to a podcast we did on 10Xing. And they were it was expanding what they had thought about and the way what's going to be the trajectory of their life. And I just think it's so cool that right now somebody's listening to you going, you know what? Yeah, I'm a mess in my financial, and I need this tool, or I need to go and get involved in a peer group. So thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all these things with us, Victoria.
Well, thank you for having me. I very much enjoyed it, as always.
Awesome. Well, we'll catch you in September.
Yes, at the Remodeler Summit in New Orleans.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll put a link in there as well for anybody that may want to get a ticket and come along with us.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.